In this video, we are going to continue with activity 3.1.4, while loops and if else structures, and we're going to be looking at part 2 called the mission of the condition. So in this scenario, we've explored already the premise of a forever loop or a while loop in order to create an infinite looping program. Now what we can do is we can go ahead and take a look at how do we set up what we call with an if condition. So to set up certain scenarios where it only executes if the condition is met. So we'll go through and build this out. So for example, they utilize a life counter algorithm for a video game. You know, for example, if we will set the life counter to 3, we repeat until the counter is 0, play the game. If the level has failed, then you reduce the life counter by 1. And they show an example what this would look like built as a flowchart. Another way to plan out programs would be to flowchart to set that there. And if the life counter is greater than 0, we play the next level. As the level gets failed, we reduce the counter by 1. And at any point there, we can go through and always kind of come back. Or, you know, if the life counter is equal to 0, then we'd always end the program or end the game. So this is a great example. Down below, they're going to set up an example code that we're going to be able to see that if statement kind of get added in. So we're going to go ahead and build this in VEX code. And this is for our part 1 code that we had going on. So I'm going to go ahead and go to File, Save As. So let me go ahead and put this into our machine control folder. So this was activity 314 part 1. I'm going to hit save. While I'm at it, before I change this code, I'm going to go ahead and go to File, Save As, and I'm going to go ahead and name this as part 2 and hit save. Now that I have part 2 saved, I can get rid of this part 1 code, and now you'll see it says that it's saved. So that means if I were to close down the VEX code program now and open up part 2, I would just get a blank program to work from. Alright, so to build the program that they have that has been provided, we're going to go ahead and put in, this is part 2 provided code, and we're going to go ahead and build out a forever loop, and we're going to bring in now an if condition. So which is going to be inside of the forever loops. That means anything inside of the forever loop braces is going to be repeated. And then I'm going to build in an operator and drop it in there. And then with that operator under sensing, I'm going to go ahead and grab the potentiometer sensing and drop it in to this particular case. So if the potentiometer angle in percent is greater than 0, then we want these actions to happen. So I'm going to go up to motion. We're going to grab the set left motor velocity to 50%. But what we're going to do is rather than have 50%, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to duplicate by right clicking on the light blue block there, or the kind of the teal colored block. Duplicate. So now I get this potentiometer and I'm going to drop it in there. So we want to say we're going to set the left motor velocity to match whatever percent angle that the potentiometer is reading in. When we do that, we're going to spin our left motor forward. We're going to wait for 1 second, and then we're going to stop our motor. So what this program is going to be, once you kind of see this build out, will be a kind of a variable speed control for our robot or for our motor. And so by this case, we're going to use the potentiometer to make that happen. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit download. I'll click run, and you're going to probably see my motor is going to start to turn, and as I reach over and turn on the potentiometer, As I turn it to 0, it turns off, but once I get greater than 0, I'll start getting some turning, and as I turn it even higher, it gets even faster, so up to the highest point. So now you're going to notice that the motor, as I turn it back down, it kind of it runs and stops and then starts again. Well, what that is that's your wait statement and your stop motor command in there. So I'm going to go ahead and hit stop. I'm going to make one little change just to show you an effect here. I'm going to grab these two blocks and just kind of set them aside. The wait 1 second, stop motor just gets thrown to the side. I'm going to re-download. And I want to show you the effect of this. So I'm going to hit run. And if I go ahead and turn on my potentiometer, now you don't get this kind of stopping motion. And now, as I turn the potentiometer all the way up to full speed, there's the motor running at full speed as well, or up to whatever velocity that's being set. So again, the potentiometer is kind of controlling that. So this is kind of similar. This is like a variable speed control, much like, I'm going to go ahead and stop our program. You can also think of it like a volume button, like on your radio, you know, or anything like that, is that when you press that button, or as you turn that knob to the right, the volume goes up. As you turn it to the left, it goes down, and it kind of controls some of those things there. All right, I'm going to go ahead and put these statements back in, since this is going to, the rest of our activity is going to call for us to do that. So they want us to observe the behaviors, and they want us to add a second if-then statement to the loop and check to see if the potentiometer has a value of 0. Inside of it, they want us to spin the right motor forward for 180 degrees block to be put in there. So what this means is I'm going to go to control, and I'm going to grab another if-then block, and I want it to be not inside of the if condition. I want it to be, but still within the while loop. So you should see the two ifs should be all along the same level. So if I was to strike a line from here to here, these two if conditions would both be at the same level. So whereas if I was to embed it inside, you can note that this is kind of indented a little bit more to the right. As we go through this playlist for activity 3.1.4, we're going to talk a little bit kind of the hierarchy of how this VEX code kind of runs its particular statements. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure this is outside of that if-else statement. And now they want us to check to see, all right, is this potentiometer value equal to 0? So I'm going to go to operators. I'm going to grab the equals operator. We're going to go ahead and change that to 0. And then what I'm going to do is we want to go to sensing, and we're going to grab that potentiometer. So if that potentiometer reading is equal to 0, then here's what's going to happen, is they want us to spin the right motor for 180 degrees, or spin the right motor if I misspoke there. So 180 degrees. So that's kind of what's going on. So we're going to be able to see this effect now. Now I'm going to download and hit the run button. So now my potentiometer, my right motor, is turning every 180 degrees because it's reading at 0. But once I get past that condition, once I get past 0 with the potentiometer, now my left motor is the only thing that's spinning, because we have two conditions here to where we can make it to where the computer can make a decision here about if the potentiometer reads greater than 0, then we're going to control the left motor. But if it equals 0, we're going to control the right motor, which is exactly what's happening. So as soon as I turn this back to 0, it goes through and stops. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and hit stop the program. And at this point, we're going to go ahead and stop the video, and we're going to take a look in the next video on what exactly, how can we build programs using wait until or using if conditions, and see what kind of effects that we have depending upon how we build this program, and when do we want to have certain behaviors happening with those particular blocks that we choose to use.